On BBC One now, for the deaf or hard of hearing, See Here.
Last year, we reported on a record out-of-court settlement made to a retired Lincolnshire police officer by his former employer when he lost his hearing after years of firearm training without any provision of hearing protection. Now, the Ministry of Defence here in London are facing a similar series of legal challenges from members of the armed forces who believe they've been deafened by the sound of gunfire and exploding shells during training exercises.
I always wanted to be a soldier, right from when I was at school. But my father was in the services and he tried to encourage me to take a career in something else. So it wasn't until later life that I joined the TA, Parachute Regiment, and I enjoyed it so much I went straight on to the regular army, and I loved it, every minute of it. My role in 2-Para was MFC, Mortar Fire Controller, and I was the eyes and the ears of the mortar line, and they're normally a couple of miles behind the friendly forces firing the mortars, and it was my job to direct the fire by way of a compass, a map and a radio. You are supposed to wear ear defenders, and they are issued, and it is standard operating procedure to wear ear defenders at all times. But being a radio operator, you can't wear ear defenders and a radio headset. We were doing a live firing exercise, walking down the range. I was directing fire by use of the radio. There's riflemen all around me using their weapons. Coming towards the end of the exercise at the top of the range, I spoke across the radio to the mortar line to check fire, which means stop firing. We're becoming within a certain safety distance. Nothing came back. I said check fire again, and 2 or 3 times, check fire, check fire. I was starting to get worried at this time. The safety officer behind me tapped me on the shoulder, and I immediately turned around and he said, they've checked firing, they've checked firing. You must have something wrong with your radio. I took my headset off, and it was at that point, trying to hear him speak by, you know, moving around my ears, that I realised there was something wrong with my hearing.
After a month in hospital, doctors confirmed that James had lost all hearing in his left ear. This meant his career as a professional soldier was over, and in August 1992 he was medically discharged from the army.
My level of hearing loss is actually 50%. I have total nerve deafness in my left ear. Although the eardrum's perfectly fine, I have no nerves. That means I can't wear a hearing aid. So it really does affect me. When I was told I was going to be discharged, although I had some idea it might happen, I was devastated. You know, it took a few minutes to compose myself. I'd done nearly 6 years. I was very happy. I was climbing the rank scale. I had one of the best jobs that I could have for myself within the battalion. The thought of going back into servicery had no prospects for me at all, really. I just, I found it very difficult to handle.
Having lost everything, the Royal British Legion, which advise and support ex-service men and women, put James in touch with solicitor Paul Harrington, who specialises in representing ex-service personnel. to find out whether James could take the Ministry of Defence to court.
In 1987, the Crown Proceedings Armed Forces Act was passed, which meant that from May of 1987, any Crown employee, and particularly servicemen, could sue for damages through the courts in respect of injuries that occurred during the course of their employment by the Ministry of Defence.
How did you proceed with James's case?
We had to establish that there was an employer-employee relationship, that there was a duty of care owed by the employer to James in that relationship, and as a result of that duty of care, James had suffered injury.
The whole process was really a nightmare. I mean, I basically sat at home and wrote letters for Paul, who when asked me questions, and he took the brunt. But it was the waiting, not knowing whether I was going to come to a conclusion with the court case or not.
The pleadings were issued setting out our claim, and the various medical reports and our claim for financial loss were set, and still the Ministry of Defence indicated that they were not going to meet the claim. We therefore had to process the matter and have it eventually set down for trial before a judge in court. But some few weeks before the case was due to be heard, the Ministry of Defence came forward with an offer that was acceptable to James, and so the matter was settled on an out-of-court basis.
At the end of the claim, I got £80,000. You take off a proportion of that to pay for Paul, my solicitor. Most of it was for loss of earnings. I think it was £15,000 was actually compensation for the loss of hearing, but the rest of it was for loss of earnings over a period of 22 years that I would have spent with the Army.
James, like many other servicemen, have brought claims against the Ministry of Defence, not out of a sense of revenge or retribution, but rather out of a sense of wishing to ensure security for their own future, and also as compensation for the fact that they have had careers that they have loved taken away from them.
The simple truth is that for people working in noisy environments, their employers have a legal responsibility to protect them. And as the Ministry of Defence has now discovered, any failure to do so can prove both costly and damaging. Although James was successful in his battle for compensation, the Royal British Legion believes there are still many other ex-servicemen and women who have also been deafened. If you've had similar experiences to James and want advice on either your pension or your legal rights, you can contact the Royal British Legion helpline, the telephone number for which is given at the end of the programme.
Come here to hear a story, yes? Let's choose a good story. What about the story of the shoemaker and the elves? A long, long time ago, on a cold winter's night, the snow was falling.
I was working for a theatre company as a co-director, and I met Judy when she came to see one of our performances. This was 1 or 2 years ago, I can't remember exactly when. She told me she was interested in setting up a theatre company, and she wanted to work with deaf children, which I thought was fantastic, because all the work I've done as an actor has been for 11-year-olds or over, rarely for anyone younger. These opportunities don't come along very often, which is a shame really, so this is great. We agreed that it would be nice to work together because Judy wanted someone with the sort of experience I have as a deaf person and having grown up deaf, in addition to my experience as an actor. So all of that is helpful to the project.
Snowing, snowing, snow, snow. Ooh, must go before the shoemaker wakes up. Must work now. Help me again, please. Yes, yes. Good. What? What? Magic bag. If tell shoemaker with me, magic doesn't work. So, secret. Shh.
We're using the story The Shoemaker and the Elves. We chose that one because we thought it would be something simple to start off with for our first tour and just see how it goes. It's not easy to translate. We had to start with quite a lengthy script in English and look at how we could cut down the dialogue and make it more visual and accessible to a wide audience. Because we're not just performing in deaf schools where they sign and use total communication, we're also going into mainstream schools with hearing impaired units. Some of those children sign and some don't. It's a wide audience and we have to cater for them all. So, the more visual, the better. We wanted to find a story that has a moral, which we were able to focus on, but at the same time make it entertaining for the kids. This is important for young deaf children because, well, for example, thinking about when I was young, there wasn't much in the way of drama and arts for us. That's still true, although things are getting better, especially with the new national curriculum, which seems to promote more of the non-academic activities like arts. And I feel strongly that because young people are starting out in life, they should learn from storytelling about self-expression. I'm still disappointed that there's not enough of this for kids under 11, and there should be more. Because I'm sure that hearing kids get lots of opportunities to experience theatre, because there are lots of hearing theatre companies. There are very few deaf companies and very few deaf actors.
1, 2, 3. Red and yellow and pink and green, purple and orange and blue. We can sign a rainbow, sign a rainbow, sign a rainbow too. Well done!
I've read the book before, but when I saw the play, it looked like a different story.
Magic! Magic made the new shoes appear. They were all new shoes. They were everywhere.
I think the play was the best. It was more interesting. Because there was magic in the rainbow, and that wasn't in the story in the book. And the magic bag wasn't in the book either. I liked it a lot.
When I wake up in the morning, of course, assuming I know it's morning, because one must remember that I've no vision of light at all, so therefore I don't know if it's morning. It could be middle of the night for all I know. My mind is all full of all sorts of wonderful imaginary things because I can only hear tinnitus. There's absolutely nothing in my world, no sight, no sound, until I attach the cochlear implant. This means that one is disoriented straight away because you don't know there's a world in existence. It's like being on the moon. I was born blind, but I was totally hearing. In fact, I used my hearing for my work. I lost my hearing about 8 years ago, 50% in a week, and the rest went over the next year, and I ended up totally deaf. It was hard because I'd only been married 7 months, and I think it was certainly as hard for Pat, my wife, as it was for myself, because she grieved much easier than I did. I was just numb at the shock of it, really. And it was devastating, but you've got to get on with life. You can't hang around. You can't fall to grief. Not that I wasn't tempted to do so, and there were times when I just wanted to curl up and forget everything, but life had to be gone on with. And then in 1993, I had a cochlear implant fitted, and that at least gave me a very crude but narrow bridge to the world, really. I used to be a piano tuner. I worked for all the top rock bands many years ago, and then suddenly all that was lost to me. Sound is or was my life. Sound filled my head. Thunderstorms, which I used to love, the rain, the music, the beauty, the stereo on the radio. It was everything, absolutely everything. To have that chopped out of your life in the space of 18 months, a year, completely, is beyond description, really. And if you've had no sight as well, you have been brought up in a world where you've had to rely on sound to get you through. Now that's gone. And all I have is a very crude buzz of a cochlear implant to work with. So I have put tremendous efforts into putting this cochlear implant to absolute maximum use. Lots of seeing deaf people still have to lip read with the cochlear implant. Of course, I can't and have never been able to do that, so I've had to jolly well make sure that the cochlear implant does all it can for me. Music was my life, music. I would still like to be my life when it appears in my dreams at night, although that happens less frequently now because I'm beginning to forget what it actually sounds like. It is the backbone of my very existence, or was, and I will never get over its loss, never. I don't think I ever will. I will put a mask on and hide it and carry on with my life, but deep in my mind, the hurt of an emotional piece of music that I like Entangled by Genesis or Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto or anything like that, even if somebody talks about it, it will sting me like a knife being put through one's heart, really, because the beauty, anyone who can listen to music and appreciate the beauty of it just doesn't know how lucky they are.
Difficult, but you manage it. The room is still spinning. It dips and sways a little. It's going to be the worst one of your life. The light is now on. Bedroom.
Now that I've got the computer, as well as being a childhood dream of mine, it's actually opened up the most unbelievable world of communication to me. You must remember that before I had the cochlear implant for 1.5 years, the only way anybody could talk to me was through my hand. No other way. And so, now to have access to things like the internet, which I was one of the first deafblind people, in fact I think the first deafblind person in the country to get onto. The world literally is my oyster. Also, I'm able to play games like Leather and adventure and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where I can sit for hours puzzling out what to do and getting lost in mazes and, oh, wonderful things, just to escape, if you like, and go into a world where perhaps I'm not deaf, where I'm not blind, where I can play on an equal footing. That voice you're hearing is Hal. Hal, of course, is a very famous name from the old 2001 computer that Arthur C. Clarke created, and Dolphin decided to name their synthesizer this. It reads literally the text off the screen for me, either if I'm playing a game, or if I'm on the internet, or if I'm just simply listening to a book, as very often I do.
The first day, Friday, 3 December, the Red October Captain First Rank Mark Aurelius of the Soviet Navy was dressed for the Arctic conditions normal to the Northern Fleet submarine base at Polyony. 5 layers of wool and oilskin enclosed him. The dirty harbor tug pushed his submarine's bow around to the north, facing down the channel.
One of the things I want, now I've had so much use out of this cochlear implant, is another one. Now normally sighted people don't need another one, but a blind person needs some form of direction. This at the moment I don't have. If I had 2 implants, I know I would at least have stereo direction, which could help me towards at least maybe being able to walk outside the house on my own. Secondly, if I had a second implant, the new internal part would be set up ready to take much more progressive processes, so possibly I'll be able to get some form of music back. But I'm having a great deal of difficulty between trying to get Cochlear to agree to do one. I have someone who is prepared to do the funding for me. I have Cochlear who say they want the money first, and I'm stuck in between the two. Cochlear won't commit themselves to letting me have a second implant, and the people who want to raise the money aren't going to start raising it until they know I can definitely have one. And the surgeons in the middle are humming and hawing as well, and it's a very long and difficult battle. And I feel that I could produce a research project, you know, for the rest of the implant program. I could be a unique guinea pig and also benefit tremendously. And it's just a matter of how the heck do I do it? How can I convince surgeons that don't understand just how important sound direction is to a blind person? I want excitement and laughter and social interaction between people and lots of fun and games and things. I'm an extrovert, and I'm having half of that character of mine held down merely because I can't communicate in the way I used to.
You probably remember that when Sign On was scrapped earlier this year, the deaf community was shocked and upset at Channel 4's decision to axe their programme. Instead, Channel 4 decided to produce a 19-part series for deaf kids. The programme is aimed at 8 to 15-year-old kids, but it will also appeal to hearing children as well. Independent production companies were invited to put forward their ideas, and the successful tender came from an Irish company, Brian Waddell Productions. It's called The Vibe, and we went out to see how they're getting on.
Ready? Okay, everybody ready? Ready? Right. 5, 4, 3.
My name is Richard, and I love football. Arsenal, way.
Well, today was a fun item, which was a sporting item with all the kids working together on an activity centre, an assault course. And the idea of the assault course is that they all have to work together cooperatively, help each other. They have this kind of buddy system. So it's a fun item showing kids working together, working cooperatively, which was actually quite a nice way of introducing the programme and introducing our presenters to the audience, because we were able to see all 6 of them working together on camera as a team.
2, 1.
Are you ready for your first challenge? Yeah! Let's go!
It's a magazine programme which is going to have lots of different items in it, from sport to fashion, from comedy to information. And at its centre we'll have a story of 6 young people who are friends and who meet together each week in their own secret hideaway, where they go each week to get away from their parents and their teachers and from all other adults. And the only adults who are allowed are the ones who are actually invited in by the kids. So it's a place they go to meet and be together. And of the 6 kids, 3 of them are hearing and 3 of them are deaf, but they're all good friends and they all get on well together. Well, we're just in our very first week of production, which is very exciting. We've been out on location for 3 days and we've done a whole variety of items. Yesterday we were at Castle Leslie, down in the south, and we were filming an item about Halloween and ghosts, and it's a wonderful stately home, so the kids were really intrigued by the haunted rooms, which would be fun. And we were also at a planetarium in Armagh. And this evening we're going to be doing some snorkeling and talking about signing underwater.
She loves him. She loves him.
I know she loves him.
They're all sign language users, with the exception of Deborah, one of our hearing cast, who doesn't sign very much at the moment, but she's learning very quickly, and we've built it into the plot that she's learning to sign so that she can communicate with her best friend Donna. The other 2 hearing kids are both from deaf families, so they're already sign language users. And the 3 deaf children also use British Sign Language.
Looks fun, but a bit scary. We wish them all the best with the programme. If you want to see the first in the series of The Vibe, it'll be on next Saturday lunchtime on Channel 4. But that's all we have time for this week. Bye.
Attractive professional male.
I think your legs are fabulous.
With a good sense of humour.
Are you any good in bed? What's the old fool babbling on about?
Attentive listener.
I married him, I slept with him, and when I had enough, I leave. Taxi!
Is he more, Ellie?
What?
The books that you write, quite frankly.
I'm terribly sorry.
My name's Miles Kay.
Nice to meet you, Des.
Seeking to recapture his youth in the Wogan years. Beginning Friday at 10:20 on BBC.